My name is Bianca. I'm a principal hardware engineer in AWS, and I'm super excited to be here today to talk to you about bringing the AWS experience on premises with Outposts. I've been at Amazon for almost 8 years. Over the past 8 years, I've had the pleasure of leading the hardware designs for many cool innovations for our customers, such as the computer vision for the original Amazon Go store, the AWS P2, MP3 GPU instances, the first Graviton instance, the Snow products, and Outposts. And we're honored to have our friend Thorsten here. So Thorsten's right here from Germany. So he traveled all the way from Germany to tell you about Outposts. So thank you, Thorsten. And yeah. So he's the technical tribe lead infrastructure US from Tipico. Tipico is a leading gaming operator that offers safe, secure digital and mobile betting entertainment. Tipico is one of the earliest customers of Outposts. Thorsten is here today to provide a deep dive of their Outpost use case and share learning and best practices of deploying Outpost. Today, we will talk about what an Outpost is and why you might consider extending AWS services on premises with a member of the Outpost family, go over how Outposts work, and look at some of the hardware, which I'm excited about because I'm a hardware person. Then talk about how to order one and what the install process and delivery experience is like for each offering. Then finally, we will wrap up with the exciting customer use cases. Raise your hand if you know what an Outpost is. OK, lots of fans already. That's good. So what is Outpost? Outpost is a way to deliver the same AWS experience that you enjoy in the cloud on premises in your data center. Customers love AWS, but for various reasons that I will cover later, they cannot move to the cloud and have been asking for on-prem compute for many years. We wanted to be able to satisfy this need and deliver a truly consistent AWS experience on premises while preserving the things we thought were really important about being cloud native. There are 3 things that we believe are absolutely critical to achieving on-premise experience with the cloud, and we are able to deliver all those with Outpost. First, that you use the same infrastructure on-premise that you would use in the AWS regions. Since AWS was born, we spent a lot of time perfecting it, optimizing hardware, and really developing our virtualization stack, and there's just no way to have the same experience without using the same hardware. Second thing that is important, Outpost is fully managed, monitored, and operated by AWS. So we thought it was absolutely critical that we deliver something that we could remotely manage and monitor so that customers can focus on their applications. Third, one of the things that's absolutely great about AWS is the ability to manage everything programmatically, not just with AWS's own tools like AWS CLI and all of our various language SDKs, but also through a really rich community of third-party tools like Terraform. One of the things we wanted to make sure of is when we deliver an AWS experience on premises, that all of that tooling would just work. If you built a CloudFormation stack to run your applications, we wanted those CloudFormation stacks to just work. Or if you're using Terraform, your Terraform template should still work. With Outpost, we are able to deliver all of these things, and we believe that is what makes it truly unique compared to other options for on-prem out there. So why do some applications need to remain on premises? You have the latency-sensitive applications. Some of your applications might be sensitive to internet latency. You need applications to run on premises to support either equipment and processes that are sensitive to compute latency to ensure smooth and predictable operations. For example, running on factory floor for automated operations in manufacturing, real-time patient diagnosis, MRI machines, medical imaging, video games, content and media streaming. Another reason is local data processing. There has been an exponential increase in the data that is being generated by users and end devices. You have data-intensive workloads that collect and process hundreds of terabytes of data a day. Instead of sending the raw data to the cloud, you can pre-process it and take action locally. For example, data lakes on-prem, smart cards that generate large volumes of data. It would be good to process the data locally to respond to events in real time and to have better control on analyzing, backing up, and restoring the data. At the same time, you might also like to leverage cloud services such as artificial intelligence, machine learning services, or analytics, as you do in the AWS regions for data visualization and insights. These type of applications need to run on premises close to the data sources or end devices. Then there are applications with data residency requirements. For example, you may operate in a geographical location where regulations dictate that data and infrastructure reside in specific countries or states. Or maybe your enterprise may be in the process of migrating to the cloud and not quite ready to move to AWS for InfoSec or other reasons. A good example of this is Tipico. Tipico is one of the largest international sport bookmakers with a large market share in Germany. They were already using AWS services to build and run their applications. But when they wanted to enter the US market, they could not do it without on-prem because US regulations require that online bookmakers maintain their user data on premises within state boundaries. Using AWS Outpost, Tipico was able to effectively meet its data residency requirements without the overhead of setting up on-prem infrastructure or rewriting their software stack. By bringing the AWS experience closer to end users, they were also able to reduce application latency to provide a better user experience. I will let Torsten tell you Tipico's story of how they were able to enter the US market successfully with Outpost later in this presentation. So what does Outpost look like? Sounds like some of you are already familiar with it. Meet the AWS Outpost family. We have rack and single server form factors. We have a rack on the Expo floor, and please do come check it out. I know some of you did come check it out already. We launched the 42U rack form factor about 2 years ago. The rack form factor is for those who need a lot of compute and can accommodate at least a rack of servers, which is roughly the size of a refrigerator. Typically in their data centers, colocation facilities, or edge locations where large capacity is required. On the other hand, not everyone needs that much compute or has enough physical space for a rack. So meet the smaller Outposts. Here they are. We announced those yesterday. And we also have those at the booth as well. And after the session, I will let you come on stage and you can check them out closer. So these are 1U and 2U form factors, as you can see. These will be ideal for enterprise customers who need compute across hundreds or thousands of connected edge locations. These customers want to bring AWS services, infrastructure, and operating models to locations with limited space that can't fit a full-size rack. These servers will support workloads that have low latency or local data processing needs. For example, factories and hospitals often require single-digit millisecond latencies to effectively operate business applications and medical diagnostics. Or retail stores often need to ensure that their on-premises point-of-sale systems are always accessible over the local network. Or you could even use these in your garage. I'm sure you could find some really cool use cases for using those in your garage. So you can see what an Outpost rack looks like in that picture. I think it is beautiful, but I might be a little biased. So, when you order an Outpost rack, it gets delivered to you just like you see in the photo. And by the way, these are the same racks, the same hardware that we land in our data centers. All you need to do when the rack arrives is plug in networking and power. And then we manage and maintain the servers the same way as we do in our region servers. We patch and update them seamlessly and repair them when something breaks. No maintenance windows or downtime for patching. And by combining all of these things, what we can provide is a consistent experience that is the same as you would get in the AWS region. And we believe that's super cool and really important to our customers. Once you order an Outpost rack, we pre-build it, test it, and make sure it works before we ship it to you. The Outpost rack will ship to you neatly pre-cabled, like you can see in the picture, which I think is really awesome. If you ever had to cable a rack, you know it can be a pain and it can be very error prone. So we wanted to take that error out and make the user experience smooth for our customers. One thing I would like to point out about the rack is that each server is physically connected to 2 networking switches for redundancy. If you order multiple racks, we'll interconnect those racks together, and you get that same consistent networking experience across racks too. Outposts can accommodate various uplink speeds based on your workload needs. Regardless of the connectivity to the AWS region and your local network, the EC2 instances communicate between themselves at 25 gigabit Ethernet, which is the same networking experience as in the AWS regions. With this much networking, you can launch multiple EC2 instances without having to worry where they land, because you are getting that full 25 gigabit Ethernet network performance between those 2 instances. That's amazing. Another thing I would like to point out about the rack is the way we do power. One of the things that we know from experience from running the AWS global infrastructure is that some of the components that fail the most are power supplies. So we eliminated the power supplies from each server. Instead, we have centralized power conversion and utilize a busbar architecture with 2 power feeds, like you can see in the picture. This architecture allows us to have redundancy without having to put redundancy in every server. If a power supply fails, we just replace it. You don't have to remove or touch the server in a rack. Overall, we found this power architecture to be more reliable and more cost and power efficient than traditional power supplies. AWS Outpost is unique in that we're not just giving you a piece of software that you run on some kind of random piece of hardware, but we're really bringing that full AWS experience all the way from high-level services like RDS to low-level things like networking and power infrastructure. And that's really key to how we think about delivering the AWS experience on premises. While customers love the experience with the racks, they were very vocal about wanting the AWS cloud delivered to them in smaller form factors. So we had to think about how to offer that same AWS experience with the right amount of compute and with the right amount of compute, but for constrained spaces. So here's the 1U and 2U. So here's the 2U, 1U, and we have Intel and Graviton options. And these can fit in standard 19-inch racks, or you can operate them on the bench or your garage, like I mentioned earlier. And so again, these are ideal for sites like restaurants, hospital clinics, cell towers. These are just few examples. And in these ones, we do have power supplies because they go into standard racks. And we have dual power supplies, redundant power supplies in each server. We have AC and DC options. And we have a networking port. And then when you order it, you'll get a splitter cable. We have the 100 gig networking port, and it splits into 4x10, or we could do 4x25. We'll have different configurations. And I will let you check these out after the session. You're welcome to come on stage, check them out yourselves. And we encourage you to take some selfies with them. We're running a selfie challenge this week. Take a selfie with the Outpost. And if you share them on Twitter, we will give you some Outpost swag while supplies last. And Jeff Barr will pick his favorite 3 tweets, and he will reshare them. So, pretty fun. So again, what kind of workloads and applications can you run on these smaller form factor Outpost servers? You can run compute applications at the edge for low latency and local processing. You can run virtual machines with EC2 instances. Each instance will have instance storage that can be used for AMI launches and data volumes. You can deploy containerized workloads using Amazon ECS. You can network with Amazon VPC to introduce logical separation between workloads and secure communication within a workload that spans the region and your site. And these servers are also great options for IoT workloads. We have support for IoT Greengrass, IoT messaging, and SageMaker for inference at the edge. Customers want to train models in the AWS regions, but want the inference to react to local sensors. You can feed it the data locally. You have really low latency to collect that data. And come to the AWS Hybrid Kiosk to check out a demo running on one of these servers, showing low latency and, for analyzing camera and IoT sensor data to make the perfect cup of coffee. This demo will highlight how a coffee shop or a restaurant can improve their speed and quality of service. And by the way, I personally love coffee, so I'm super excited about this demo. So now a little bit about Nitro. What is Nitro? And why is it important about the creation of AWS Outposts? AWS Outposts, including 1U, 2U, and 42U, is built on Nitro. AWS Nitro is a system that we've been developing since about 2012. We realized early on that if we build complementary hardware and software together to support EC2 virtualization, that would allow us to make disruptive innovations within the stack. That is the magic behind Nitro. At its core, Nitro has three primary aspects. First is the AWS Nitro cards. These have a custom ASIC built by AWS that enables super high performance I/O virtualization. So this is what runs VPC networking, the elastic block storage, and the instant storage. In all three cases, we're able to do full line rate encryption because of these Nitro hardware cards. Second is the Nitro security chip. Security is the #1 thing we focus on in AWS. When building Nitro, we really focused on raising the security bar as high as possible. So the Nitro security chip we built allows us to really trust the hardware through the entire system and its life cycle, protects the hardware resources, and makes it trustworthy, unlike off-the-shelf motherboards. Finally, we looked at the hypervisor requirements and realized we could actually simplify it a lot because of functionality provided by the Nitro cards. For example, we could remove the network stack. Really, just memory and CPU allocations are needed. The less software you have, the better the performance. This led to the super lightweight Nitro hypervisor. So with this super lightweight hypervisor Nitro, we are able to achieve performance indistinguishable from bare metal. What's really exciting with Outpost is that this is really the first time that customers can get all of the innovation we built in the AWS regions, on their premises, their data centers, the actual hardware, the full system, all the security advantages, all of the performance advantages. You can now actually have that right inside of your data center. We believe that's really remarkable. We love all the security in Nitro, but we wanted an extra layer of security. We did not want anyone walking away with a server without the data to be cryptographically shredded. If you've worked in data centers, you're probably aware that media handling, protecting it from getting into the wrong hands, protecting it from leaving the data center, disposing of it or recycling can be very costly, error-prone, labor-intensive, time-consuming. Because of the Nitro system design, we could tackle this problem in a new and simple way. Because we encrypt everything at rest in Nitro using hardware-based encryption, we can actually centralize the encryption key hierarchy into one location and externalize it. And that's what we do with this little security key. So here it is. And I'm really proud of this because it is a hardware solution. It ends up being a very simple, elegant, but rigorous way of solving this data destruction problem. So, so I will show you how to use this. So when you're done using your server and you want your data to be cryptographically shredded, you take this out, and you can see we have them here. So each server has them, and the servers in the rack have them too. You take it out, and it comes with the hex driver. You take the hex driver out, and here there's a chip, and there's a screw on top of it. You rotate this 3 times, and then it crushes the chip. And that will physically destroy the encryption keys associated with all of the data on the servers. And the thing to remember is that crashing the chip is equivalent to shredding your drives. And if you forget how to do it, we have instructions right here on the key. And I have a couple of these, and you can check them out. After the presentation. Now that you've learned about the AWS Nitro system, the magic behind Outpost, let's look at how Outpost actually works and how Nitro enables a lot of the sameness that I mentioned. Imagine an AWS data center full of racks of Nitro servers. Now take those racks and roll it to your data center, connect it back to the AWS data center with a very long cable. That's a visual metaphor for AWS Outpost. As you can see in this diagram, Outpost is using the same control plane as in the AWS regions, which means it uses the same brain to process workloads as in the AWS data centers. Fundamentally, Nitro supports a number of private APIs. It does what the APIs tell it to do. It's that simple. It doesn't really matter whether the Nitro servers are sitting in the AWS data centers, in your data centers, or in a colocation facility. They all speak the same language, the Nitro APIs. All we really need to do is figure out a way to forward our API calls from within region through a secure communication channel to the rack that is in your data center. This tunneling technology that we built to enable Outpost, it's fundamentally based on all of the innovation we did in Nitro. But really, it allows for that truly transparent experience where both from the server's perspective and the control plane's perspective, it's no different from being in one of our data centers, and that's really been key to the sameness. Now a bit about Outpost rack networking. An Outpost rack is an extension of an AWS region with local networking access to the Outpost from your premises via the local gateway. EC2 instances in the region can also communicate with EC2 instances on premises using Service Link, which tunnels VPC traffic between the Outpost and the region. For more details on Outpost networking, please check out an awesome in-depth talk linked in this slide. There's the QR code. I'll give you a few seconds to take a picture. Okay? So now that you learned a little bit about Outpost and got a glimpse of how amazing it is, hopefully you decided you want to have an Outpost. So the first step to get one is to place an order. To do this, you first need to define a site, which is your physical location. You'll tell us the location address, as well as things like power requirements. Do you need AC, DC power, single phase, 3-phase, then things like networking, 10 gigabit, 1 gigabit, 100. All of these things will help us figure out the right configuration is for your environment. Then specifically for the 42U form factor, a lot of customers might not be able to deal with entire rack deliveries or might have special security on site. Just let us know the details. Our delivery team wants to help. We want to make it a smooth delivery and install experience. For customers with hundreds or thousands of Outpost sites, you will be able to use tags to group your sites or Outposts together. After we have enough information about your site, it's time to select your actual Outpost. With when you acquire capacity in EC2, in AWS regions, you just launch instances. You might grab a few M5 larges, some C5s. With an Outpost, though, because we're actually talking about servers, you have a little bit more granular configurations, which means you have to do more planning about how you're bin packing your instance types. To make it easier for customers to think about this, we've predefined a number of configurations that we think are a great mix of instance types for various workloads, and those are available on the website. You can look through it, see if you find one that meets your needs. If you don't, just let us know. We'd be happy to make a custom configuration for you. Finally, when you've selected the right configuration for your location and you're ready to go, you submit your order. Exciting. For the 42U rack, the next step is for our install team to reach out to you and plan that smooth delivery that I mentioned earlier. AWS personnel will install the Outpost rack at the validated location and configure it to connect to the AWS region and your local network. An Outpost may comprise of one or more racks connected together at the site. For the Outpost, for these ones, the 1U and 2U, they will be delivered to your site address. And if you are among the first to order, you might get lucky and have it hand-delivered by a famous AWS person. I will not tell you who. You'll just have to order some. And your server will arrive in a beautiful box like you see in the picture. We have instructions how to easily take it out. We designed it so that you can easily take them out of the box. And we have QR codes that you can scan with your mobile device, and it will take you to a site with step-by-step tutorials on how to install. And we also have those QR codes here on the servers as well, so that in case you lose the box, you can scan the servers, and it will take you to that site with user guides and instructional videos. So we wanted to make the experience as easy as possible for our customers. You can self-install. We made it easy from the unboxing experience to connecting everything and getting it up and running. Or you can choose to hire a third party to do the installation for you. Once connected to the network, the server will establish a networking connection back to the AWS region, establishing the secure service link that will be used for management. AWS will automatically provision and configure the server from this point on. Once your provisioning is complete, you'll be able to see there is an active capacity pool associated with your Outpost using AWS regional management tools like the console. You can start with a single server and add more servers at your site as your workload grows. Now it is time to hear from somebody who's actually using Outpost. So over to you, Thorsten. And save all your hard questions for him. I'm just joking. Thanks for being an Outpost customer.
Don't do this to me, please. So yeah, thank you, Bianca. Yeah, great presentation so far. And I guess it's really obvious why we are also excited Outpost customers, actually. Because from a customer use case perspective, I need to say it's really true what Bianca is saying about all these features and how it works. So it's really quite seamless, yeah? So give me a short background about Tipico that you also understand our challenges a bit. So as Bianca said, Tipico is a market leader in the German-speaking market and is right now entering the US market. We went into the cloud all in 2018. And then we were looking at the US market and had the challenge immediately, oh, we need to store the user transaction data on-premise. So what should we do now? Go back to the state before? This was something that was impossible for us because we didn't want to go back to bare metal data centers to everything. So we were exploring solutions. Back then, Outpost was unfortunately not available yet. So we have chosen a different private cloud provider. And after all the setup, everything, we saw, okay, this doesn't work out, right? So huge latencies, the performance was not good. We were completely used to the Outpost support, to the Outpost services, to the quality, to everything that AWS provides us. So thankfully, then we found a solution with back and forth talking to AWS if they can help us. We knew that Outpost is on the way, and then Outpost came available actually. And this was actually the best solution we could have, right? Because Outpost helped us with our infrastructure as a code approach we have in place. So we're using Terraform actually to provision our whole cloud infrastructure. And we were able to reuse a lot that we use already in the public cloud. Yeah, so this was a huge enabler for us because you have the same AWS APIs. You can really reuse a lot. And also AWS is a trustworthy partner, right? So this is a huge benefit you have if you have already someone who you have a good relationship to and you don't need to deal with several vendors for infrastructure. Yeah, so this was really, a great step forward for us. What were the benefits for us for using Outpost compared to the previous cloud provider, or we would have went to bare metal data centers? So we are able to enter the US market. So each new state we will come up with 5 to 10 times faster. we were also able to reduce the processing times for our transactions up to 40% and more. We are also able to onboard our engineers quite faster than, because everything, as I said, is in infrastructure as a code, so we have good code documentation, we have comments in the code. I know sometimes it's hard to believe it, but it's easy to understand for our engineers. And so AWS has also great tutorials about how does it work. So this is how an onboarding for our engineers looks like actually, right? So it's really quite simple, straightforward, and they can really start them with simple tasks. And the good thing is also, with that you have the same APIs and everything as in the public cloud, we have a kind of an innovation lab. What does it mean? Our new guys can start in the public cloud exploring the AWS services, and it feels to them, if they switch over to the Outpost, they don't feel a difference, right? For them, it's really exactly the same what they tried before. So you have really a playing field, and then if you go to production, like we do, then you have also the same feeling, right? And one of the biggest things in our regulated environment as a sports betting company in the US is actually that AWS is also talking to the regulation authorities a lot, yeah? So they clarify a lot beforehand. As a huge company, they are a trusted partner also for the authorities. This actually helps us a lot with getting this stuff regulated, and that we can launch as fast as possible, yeah, from our end. So this is, was really a huge enabler for us. One thing, usually I do also pros and cons in presentations, but here, if I even try hard, it's really difficult to find big cons for Outpost. But what is important to know, as Bianca mentioned as well, you still have your data center you need to choose, right? So that means you need to partner with a data center. So at least you will get one more vendor you don't have potentially yet, yeah? AWS is helping you to provide a partner that could fit, but this partner need to fulfill some requirements, yeah? As Bianca said, it's about power, it's about cooling, it's about network equipment, yeah? So you need to keep in mind, if you use an Outpost, then you have 3 sides involved, always, yeah? It's AWS as the Outpost provider, but then you have also the data center provider you need to tackle with, and then you have you as a customer, right? So this is a bit different experience than you have if you just use the public cloud. Good thing here to mention is as well, we are right now going for our next Outpost, and we see as well that AWS is improving a lot in the process, yeah? As Bianca said, we were one of the first ones, and yeah, of course, if something is new, you find a lot of things to improve, but the good thing is AWS is doing it. For example, if we talk about connectivity, in our first Outpost, we did everything via public interfaces, right? So we had to purchase a firewall, we had routers in place, right? With the second Outpost already, there was a new feature called private connectivity. So we were able to get rid of the firewalls at least, so everything is talking on private IPs, so we just had to use a router that could terminate the BGP connection, right? So, and this is the way how Outpost is also developing to make it even easier for the customer, yeah? So also here, good work. About the sizing, this was a challenge for us because, as I said, we went all in cloud, never-ending resources. Outpost is a bit different, right? So you need to think about the scale you want to have in the next couple of years or months, that you do the right sizing. So I had a lot of talks to my architects. I need some figures about compute, about memory. What do you need? And they were looking at me and said, oh, what are you talking about? We're going to the cloud. And this was a bit the mindset change you had to do again. But also here, AWS is helping you a lot, right? So you give them a rough figure. What do you need? What do you want to have? And they're helping you to find the right sizing. Of course, you can also upscale your Outposts, right? So you have up to a certain amount, whatever fits into a 42U rack, you can put another server in there, right? And if it's full, as Bianca said, you can have a second rack as well, which you can connect, and it feels like one Outpost. This setup we actually have in place as well in our first state, because there we had this power requirements. So we had to split our Outpost in 2 actually, that we fulfill the power requirements, and also this was possible. And also no bigger issues here. Let me give you a short overview how it looked like before we went to Outpost. So you see that we don't use any managed services on our virtual cloud provider before, because it was just not possible. So we were using managed Elastic Cache, we were using Elasticsearch and so on. So we had to do everything custom. Yeah, and to see also that there is the virtual cloud provider software and the server stack, and because we had to really see it as different workloads, right? And on top of it, we had the manual Kubernetes, and on top of this, we had the application running, and of course, already connected to the AWS region. Also, the network setup was a bit more difficult than it is now, actually, definitely, right? Because both are AWS products, so the connectivity and the communication is seamless. So let me give you an overview how it looks right now, right? So there we only see this Outpost box. I don't care what hardware is inside, right? I don't care about the servers or whatever. No, I just get the whole rack delivered on one day, and then it will be provisioned, and then that's it, right? It will show up as a new availability zone in my console. Yeah, so this is how it looks like for me. I don't need to care about the service or stuff like that is running there. AWS is getting an alert and is replacing the hardware if needed. They will inform you, and then it gets done. Yeah, and on top of it, what was really a huge game changer for us, we are using EKS, so we have less maintenance on Kubernetes side. Yeah, so we can really focus on the cool things, on being innovative. And also we are using now the managed services like Elastic Cache and Elasticsearch as well, right? So we have really now as well the same functions we have in the cloud, yeah, in the public cloud. So this was definitely one of the biggest game changers for us to have Outposts, and it will also boost us a lot for the future to be successful in the US market. So many thanks to AWS to achieve this. Yeah, yeah, Bianca, I'm already done. It was quick.
Okay. Yeah, so thanks, Thorsten. It is amazing to see, yeah, thank you. So it's amazing to see Tipico expand into the US market so much faster with the AWS Outposts. And please do check out these other Outpost reInvent sessions. I'll give you a few seconds to take a picture. The CMP 329, that's actually today, I believe at 3:30. Yeah, so please do try and go to that one. It's going to be some good content there. And also check out Jeff Barr's blog. So that's me, the 2U server, and Jeff Barr. And like I said, you're welcome to come on stage after we're done here and check out the Outpost servers. And you're also welcome to visit the AWS hybrid kiosk, where we have the servers and the rack, and we also have the coffee setup running. And again, be sure to join the selfie challenge and share it on Twitter. You might get some swag, and you might get it retweeted by Jeff Barr. And for those who are into conveyor belt and robotic arms, I'd also encourage you to check out the live demo in the AWS industrial booth. And you could see how an Outpost can help automate quality inspection on the manufacturing floor by serving as a local IoT broker that connects large volumes of messages between machines. And thank you. And again, you're welcome to come on stage to check this out. And we will hang out for a bit if you have any questions. And we'll hang out after the session, too. We can go outside if we run out of time. And if you think of more questions after today, you're welcome to email us. Okay?